This conference will now be recorded.
All right, go ahead and get going here. We'll call the meeting to order. And do we go over introductions? Yeah, okay, we'll go ahead and do introductions. I'm Nicole Brown, the city office. Becky Carrasco with the NPO.
Hannah Feldman with the City of Berlin Public Works.
Kim Coivinetti, Town Attendant Public Works.
Paul Rivera, Town Windsor.
Eric Tracy, Limerick County. Jerome Rouser, North NFRMPO.
Mark Norfolk, Norfolk Region.
Jonathan Stockbrier, North Front Range NPO.
Evan Pinkham with Will County.
Mark Thomas, North Front Range Water Quality Planning Association.
All right, anyone online?
This is Tom Moore with the Regional Air Quality Council.
This is Mike Silverstein, Regional Air Quality Council.
Lindsay Jones with STV.
Do we have any public comment? Don't see anyone here. No one has a raised hand online. We'll move to the approval of the November 20th meeting minutes. Any comments on the meeting minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Then we'll, we'll move to the regional air quality updates. Tom, are you going to be giving the update, or what's that, Mark?
So Mike's going to do it.
Okay, great. All right, take it away, Mike.
Yes, hello everybody. I'm Mike Silverstein. I'm the Executive Director of the Regional Air Quality Council. Pleased to be with you all today. I don't have a slide or a handout for the group meeting today, but I just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of a process underway at the Regional Air Quality Council to develop emission control options for our board to consider in 2025 related to mobile sources. And the main area of focus will be the development or the evaluation of what are called indirect source emission reduction programs. And indirect sources are those large facilities or activities that either attract a lot of vehicle trips or generate a lot of vehicle trips by the nature of the business. And so some examples of indirect sources might be recreation venues or retail centers or warehousing complexes or distribution facilities. So those are just a few examples of what could be termed indirect sources of emissions. That it's not the facility itself that emits air pollutants, but it's the vehicle traffic to and from those facilities. And so the RAC is undertaking a pretty extensive stakeholder process to scope out potential options in the first half of 2025 and beyond. This will be a long-term process, but we want to make some good process and engage with as many stakeholders as possible. So we're just inviting you all and any of your contacts to our discussions. We have a number of work groups and committees that will be convening they've already begun work, but will be really convening in earnest in January. And you could go to the RAQC's website for further details. During the meeting here, I'll put in your chat session if I could figure that out here. I don't use this platform very often, but I'll put in a link to to our website and the appropriate locations for you all to click on and get more information, or at least share that information with your partners and stakeholders, so that we get as many voices and as much information as we could gather over the next 6 months. So that's what I wanted to bring to this group today, and happy to entertain any questions or provide more detail.
Great, thank you. Any questions? We'll move on to the APCD update. And Brendan.
Hi everyone. So I have an update from the Air Division at CDPHE. Some updates from the climate team, the greenhouse gas inventory. The division briefed the commission on an update of the major drivers of emissions tracked in the dashboard and evaluated the projections and assumptions underlying Colorado's greenhouse gas inventory. And then a discussion of the 2024 greenhouse gas resolution also happened last month. This resolution was adopted at last month's AQCC meeting, November 21st, 2024. It sets out to ensure Colorado's greenhouse gas targets are met and follows up on the Commission's October 2020 greenhouse gas resolution. The resolution's text outlines environmental and regulatory conditions that justify the need for an update. And then updates on hearings that were set in the last month at last month's AQCC meeting. The Commission set a hearing to consider revisions for addressing emissions of ozone precursors. And those are the updates I have. If you have any questions, happy to.
Any questions? We don't have any here in the room. Thank you so much. All right, and now we'll move to the 2025 TAC chair and vice chair election.
Yes, so it's that time of year where we need to elect a new chair and a vice chair. We had a little bit of a different timing here because Mark is no longer with the city of Evans, and so Nicole had to step into that, but this isn't her term to be chair, so if you wanted to be nominated again, you can do that. People have served 2 years consecutively, so that's a possibility to do that. So we just need to have somebody make a nomination. If there's no one else that wants to be nominated for chair, then do that by acclamation or vote, however you want to do that. And if Nicole, you are nominated and voted in to be the chair, then we need somebody from Wells County to be the vice chair. So, open the floor for any nominations. Or volunteers.
I'll nominate Nicole.
I'll second.
Yeah. Are there any other nominations? Anyone want to the acclamation or make that motion?
What do you need a motion to?
Yeah, you have to vote.
Yes, a motion to vote.
To close nominations and to.
I make a motion to close nominations and vote.
Okay. All right. So all those in favor for Nicole to be the chair for 2025, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So Nicole will be the chair, and then we need nomination from Wells County for vice chair.
I'd nominate Evan.
Second. Would you be willing to?
Yeah.
Hold that? Okay. Sorry, who nominated?
I did.
Oh, Mark. And who seconded? And then we'll close nominations, and then all those in favor of, unless there's others, is there anyone else who's interested? No. So all those in favor of Evan serving as vice chair? Yeah. Aye. All those opposed, same sign? All right, congratulations.
And we'll go to the off-cycle December 2024 TIP amendment.
So the off-cycle December TIP amendment includes the addition of the CDOT Region 4 new project, US 287 median safety berth and south. To go over the funding, you actually go one down to the chart. It's a little confusing. So for federal discretionary funds, there is $2,036,250 in FY25. For federal HSIP funding, there is $239,005 in FY26 and $484,835 in FY27. And for state faster funding, there is $300,000 in FY25, $356,160 in FY26. So this project installs concrete barriers in the median of US 287 to prevent vehicles from crossing and causing head-on collisions. Approximately 3 miles of this project are located in the NFRMPO region. This project extends down to Boulder County. In the NFRMPO region, this goes to around Dry Creek. You actually go comment together. So the third day public comment period opened on December 11th and will close on January 10th. An equity analysis was conducted, which can be found in the packet. NFRMPO staff noted no disadvantages and support adding the off-cycle December 2024 TIP amendment to the FY 24 to 27 TIP.
Right. Then we'll go over the FY24 TIP delay. Oh, yeah. That's a good idea. A motion for that. To accept, to recommend.
Motion to recommend.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. We'll move on to the fiscal year 24 TIP delay review.
Sure. So the FY 2024 TIP delay review was presented to the TAC last month. As a review, there were 28 projects that were subject to delay review. 2 projects are delayed for a third time, 9 projects are delayed for a second time, 7 projects are delayed for the first time, and 10 projects are up for a delay, but it meant they're not delayed. So this afternoon, we are asking for the TAC approval of the first delayed projects, and then for TAC to recommend second and third delays to Planning Council for the next meeting. Since there was confusion at Council, just quickly, if the project were to go to fourth delay, the NFRMPO would evaluate whether or not to recommend keeping the project in the pool. Also, the NFRMPO has never had a project in the fourth delay. That is all. Is there any questions?
And just for clarification, it's like 1 year in between delays, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So the next time would be like September of 25, we look at it here. So as long as whatever it is with the second and third delays, even the first delay, as long as you complete that project or it meets the milestone that's in the TIP, then we'll come off the list. So.
Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve and a motion to recommend? Is it the second? Third delay?
Yeah, and you can do that.
Take motion.
Motion to approve the second and third delay.
And the first.
And the
And the
Not first, those guys are right. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Do we have any that are going to go into a fourth delay? Is that?
Not this time, but the 2 projects that went through could.
It could, yeah, because someone is dealing with BP.
Oh,
So it's a real issue.
so it could. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, now we'll move on to our presentations. We have the Northern Range Water Quality Planning Association.
Yes, so I'm Mark Thomas with the North Front Range Water Quality Planning Association, much like an association like you guys itself for the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization. So I just wanted to give a brief introduction of who we are and what we do and stuff for those of you that aren't familiar with us. However, kind of a lot of the nameplates or towns or municipalities I recognize through dealing with you guys through the water side. So, but I met with Becky last month just to kind of ask for some collaboration and coordination on population projections related to water quality and wastewater utility services. Because we do population projections for wastewater and, the treatment and conveyance of wastewater systems, utility service areas and such, but I just wanted to, the more information, the better, the more collaboration, the better, and the more accurate the numbers are. So I just was reaching out to see if we could start that coordination and partnership. So if you would advance the slide, please. Our Association for Water Quality Planning stems back to Section 208 in the Clean Water Act, and we've been approved by the governor since 1987 for Weld County and Larimer. So we encompass all of that area of the county boundaries of both counties. Looking for, basically, we provide local planning assistance and review for water quality projects involving wastewater conveyance and treatment operation, as well as the non-point source best management practices for both Larimer and Weld, as described back to the Clean Water Act in Section 208. That's kind of where our name comes from, 208 Planning Agency. Many of the towns and municipalities here are designated management agencies, meaning you have land use control for where you site wastewater apparatuses or treatment, or your operation agency, and you operate the treatment wastewater facility in your area or for your municipality. And you can be both. You can have land use control, and you can own and operate a wastewater treatment plant as well. But in Section 208 of the Clean Water Act, you also have management control over mitigating and trying to treat non-point sources with priority practices to improve water quality. All this gets run through CDPHE through Regulation 22, the site location and design applications for siting, improving, and constructing wastewater facilities. So that's kind of how we tie into the state, we tie into the local, and then we also tie into the EPA with our main 208 area-wide water quality management plan for the whole designation region, and our region is Region 2. Advance the slide, please. For those of you that, again, aren't familiar with 208 planning agencies, there's 14 different agencies or boundaries within the state. However, there's only 4 of them that are active. We're Region 2 up there, Larimer and Weld, and then Region 12 is active, Region 4, and Region 2, I'm sorry, of course, Region 2, that's us. 7, sorry, down there in Pueblo. And can everyone see that okay? I guess maybe online too, but these are defined areas by the state, approved by the state, approved by the governor and the EPA, so these can't be moved. If you're not an active 208, the state assumes that role of what 208 functions and duties and responsibilities are. Go ahead and advance, please. So again, we identify treatment works necessary to meet the anticipated municipal and industrial waste treatment needs of an area over a 20-year period. So that's where our population projections come into. And many of the decision makers and the information we get is from the public works areas, and that from the municipalities or sanitation districts. So I just want to make sure that through this and through what we're laying out as a management plan for the next 20 years, we're all using the same numbers. And I know it's kind of fit for transportation, if you build it, also something that's going to be happening on those roads or utility services. So if we both could coordinate where all that is moving, or we also look at land use projections as well. So if we can coordinate these services between the two groups, I think we have more accurate information to build off of, and I'll get to some of that in further slides. So we look at priorities for construction, which ones need to be done first, which ones can wait. Every agency in our membership does that. We have about 45 members in our association, from sanitation districts, municipalities, towns, etc. So all of them vote on where we're going to project and anticipate future wastewater treatment needs and collection. And then we also have to look at the regulatory programs to manage that waste and keep up with water quality base limits for permitting in the waterways and to maintain the water quality or improve it, whether it's point source or non-point source, in that service area of your district. Okay, please. I mentioned this before, we're the planning agency, we're on the top tier, so then you look at organizational structure. You have the designated management agencies under that have land use control, and operation agencies under that. But all these can reverse engineer population projections by looking at the wastewater loads and flows into a wastewater treatment plant. Much like you heard a lot of the stuff about COVID, looking at testing and where we were able to predict COVID through wastewater treatment plants, we're able to predict population growth through wastewater treatment plants too, because the flows and the increase is coming. Also knowingly, that's one of the first things in development plans is we got to make sure we have utility services out there so those utilities can predict and project population. So we reverse engineer all that. And we got that data in our association and in this 208 area-wide water quality management plan. So it's out there for your use, and also asking again if we can collaborate on that and make sure those numbers are accurate. So actually, next slide, please. Kind of went over all that. Just as a context for everything we're talking about, this is the map of Weld County and Larimer. Dashed green line at the very outer edges. I've got a pointer here, but that's not going to be much good for people online. But all the different colored areas here are the different service areas of wastewater utility areas throughout Weld County and Larimer County. So you've got the St. Vrain Sanitation District down south and all the way up north to the Wellington areas. And then all the way west, including Estes Park and Upper Thompson Sanitation District, up the canyon and all the way out east and the eastern borders of Evans, and even clear out to like the Pawnee grasslands and Pawnee school districts. So we cover a vast area of population projections throughout this whole region. Go ahead, please. So getting into population projections, I pulled these right out of our 208 plan. These are looking at Larimer County. The top line is Larimer County, all encompassing basically for the unincorporated parts of Larimer County. And then we look down and we've got Fort Collins, Loveland. Actually that's Larimer County altogether, and there's an unincorporated line down below in the middle, kind of in the red there. And then we got Wellington. So there's a lot less municipalities as a whole in Larimer, but we still calculate those based off of wastewater flow. And what I would be interested in is how close are these numbers compared to the numbers you guys are getting. Go ahead and advance, please. In Weld County, of course, we have a lot more municipalities. We have the overall population, and then down in all those lines somewhere is the unincorporated part of Weld County. But all the municipalities there too. And I have this in Excel format too, where we can't just give this to you. You got to figure out where all this lays and lies. So, but we calculate all this because we have the information of the loads and flows and projected historical information as well since 1987 of these wastewater treatment plants. Go ahead, please. And then we get into the sanitation districts. So this is the stuff probably where we're more apt to be looking at extending roads and services into. So these are kind of that areas outside of municipal town boundaries or growth management areas, ultimate planning areas. But we can look at the sanitation district population projections as well, and try to see where we're going and where we need to increase services. Is that the last slide? I believe so. Oh no. So this is kind of what I wanted to show is we engineered all this looking at, to number one, to make sure we have enough services in both counties in our region. The top horizontal yellow line there is the total capacity we have of all our wastewater treatment plants. And then the next increasing line going up, the orange there, is the projected wastewater flows for the next 20 years. And this goes out to 2045, I believe. 2040 to 2045. It's kind of blurry. I think this is 2040 on this graph. Okay. The next blue line then is the actual population of the whole region. So that's the population we're looking at, summing all the municipalities and sanitation districts and unincorporated parts of the counties. And then we come down to the bottom, we got the organic loads. But we also look at this because we're a water quality association across the bottom and the bars there. We look at the Cache Laputer, the South Platte, the St. Vrain Creek, and the Middle South Platte areas in Big and Little Thompson. So these kind of break it out and look at our population projections per watershed. But this is the type of information we can basically provide you guys as well to help build and funnel into your population projections, and we can kind of use this vice versa for basically our flow and load and population projections for each other. So I just kind of introducing ourselves and what we do, and hopefully we can work together in the future. And again, you know, we've got people in all of your representative agencies giving us this data, but I don't know, are we using the same data? Are you providing different data as a member of this association than what I'm getting? You know, are your departments talking? Are you guys doing two different sets of population projections also? So if we can also, as each town of Windsor, Fort Collins, Timnath, Johnstown, Severance, make sure you're talking to your public works department as planning department too, and we're all using the same population projections. That way we can use the most accurate ones for the region. Is there any questions, I guess?
I have a good question. Will we be on the Larimer County map or correct?
You should be. Are you not on there?
I think we're on the Weld one.
Are you on the Weld one?
I don't know if that matters. We're a little in Weld, but I don't know how that works. Very good.
I'm trying to wonder how that I get this. And I will say too, we blend this information with the SDO office population projections and census data too. So I'm wondering what you guys show up from the SDO office. If it's you show up as Larimer or Weld.
Let's do Larimer. When I
Okay.
looked at it, it's Windsor, Timnath, and Johnstown and Berlin are split between them. Yeah.
That could be what happens.
I have a question. Why, on the planning and management regions breakout, it's based on county, but why was it never set up to be based on watershed or sewer drainage basin?
I have no idea. And it would make it so much easier if it was. Yes. It just, it seems like a common sense approach, doesn't it? I totally agree, but I have no idea. So anyways, I just want to keep this conversation going between the two groups and see if we can work together with population projections. And I guess just get the most accurate data for both transportation and utility services for the counties.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thanks for the presentation. All right. to Tom Moore, the indirect source presentation. And I'll just mention to those of you in the room that he did bring some treats, so if you need to venture over to the treat table, do that. Go ahead, Tom. Or is it Mike? Sorry, is Mike, are you going to be giving this presentation as well? I don't see Mike.
Can you go back to this one?
Yes.
Don't see it. Let's just go to the discussion.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to Kayla with the 2021 through 2025 NFRMPO targets for safety performance measures.
Hi everyone, hi, my name is Michaela, and today we're going to have a discussion about the 2021 to 2025 targets for safety performance measures. Just a note, I might throughout the presentation just refer to them as the 2025 targets just for short. Just letting you know that. Next slide. All right, so first things first, a little bit of an acknowledgement. The NFRMPO understands there's no acceptable number of deaths or serious injuries on our roadway network, and the NFRMPO and its member communities agree to work towards eliminating deaths and serious injuries. Next slide. Okay, so a little bit about the federal requirements for this. Targets can be set by the state DOTs and MPOs annually. Targets are based on a 5-year rolling average. The targets must be data-driven, so that means that the targets are not aspirational. It is fully based on the data, so the numbers are what they are. Newly established targets must be incorporated into any update to the RTP or TIP. And we have two options to choose from. We can either support CDOT's targets by agreeing to plan and program projects which contribute to the achievement of their targets, or we can set our own regionally specific targets. Next slide, please. So some things to consider. Up until 2023, the NFRMPO has supported the statewide targets, but in February of 2024, Planning Council approved a regional target instead of supporting CDOT's target. So we're here to discuss and kind of figure out if our focus and prioritization on safety could better be reflected in setting regional targets again for 2025, or if we're just going to stick with CDOT's targets. Next slide. All right, so a little bit on CDOT's targets. I've included the past 2 years of their targets as well as the 2025 target for CDOT. A bit of a note on this, so this 5-year average is created using 2021 to 2023 actual crash data, and then it uses forecasted estimates from 2024 and 2025, and that's kind of averaged together to create this average here. The forecast are based off of 10 years of previous data to create the 2024 and 2025 estimates. And then just a note here, from 2024 to 2025, each of these numbers has gone up for the CDOT targets. Next slide, please. And then a little bit more about the NFRMPO regional targets. So I've included the 2024 target that we went ahead and went with for this year, and we're going to, right next to it is the 2025 target to compare it to. We use the same exact methodology as CDOT. We used their CDOT's crash data to find this. And just a note, the fatalities and fatality rate has gone down for 2025, but all other numbers have gone up. So this is a little bit different than CDOT's, where the statewide targets have all gone up. Next slide. And then a little bit more on the breakdown of the forecast that was used, at least for our regional target setting. So based off of 2014 to 2023 data, we forecasted 35 fatalities for 2024, which is the year we're in right now, and then, or 35 for 2024, 34 for 2025. And this forecast is done using an exponential smoothing ETS analysis. Next slide. Showing the same thing for serious injuries in the region based off the 2014 to 2023 numbers. We've got an estimate for 2024 at 311 serious injuries and then 319 for 2025. Next slide. And then looking at non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries based off the 10 years of data. For 2024, it's forecasted for the region to have 39 of those, and then same with 2025, 39 fatalities and serious injuries. And non-motorized includes, our pedestrians, people on bikes, e-bikes, all those types of modes. Next slide, please. All right, so again, it's up to us to kind of choose between these two options here. So here is the CDOT 2025 targets that they're setting versus what we could propose for regional targets. Again, these must be data driven, so these numbers cannot be changed. It's just choosing one or the other, and the goal is to not exceed this amount, not to meet this amount, of course. Next slide, please. So kind of next steps, there will be a discussion at Planning Council as well. In January, we'll look for TAC approval on this, and then council approval in February, because the targets that we decide to go with are due end of February. Next slide. All right, so happy to open this up for discussion or take any questions. We can go back to any of the previous slides if need be.
Any questions, thoughts, recommendations? Do we have current data to see how we've done with this last recommendation, or the last set of priorities? Do we have sort of just saying how it's gone? The actual crash data?
Do we have 23 data, Michaela?
Yes, we do. I only have a few notes on 23 data for the non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities, but I can definitely get kind of those numbers together for 2023 and get them to you maybe for our next presentation on this in January, if that's okay.
So it's the last 2 years of the 5-year rolling average is the year you're in and then next year. So the most recent year we have is 2023 and not.
Yeah, so like each year CDOT typically releases the full set of crash data. It now seems to come out sometime in like August or September for the year prior. So since 2024 isn't complete yet, we won't have 2024 numbers until later next year, hence why 2024 is an estimate, and we have our 2023 data that we got in September.
I like the more regional data set because it feels like we have more opportunity to influence that, and we have more control over that area and the opportunity to affect change in those numbers more significantly. So, and I like that ours are a little bit more aggressive than maybe the state's goals in terms of the trend and where we're headed. So that would be my recommendation. Are there any other thoughts?
Yeah, as far as fatality and serious injury rates, it looks like we're higher on the injury rate compared to the state, but lower on the fatality rate.
And I wondered too about in our crash data in homes and in Loveland, we combine, oftentimes we look at the serious injury and fatality together as one because oftentimes it's very little difference of what happens in that crash that it has a very dramatic end result. And so statistically, we look at those together a little bit more, but yeah.
I like the more regional look rather than the statewide. So I think continuing on what we did last time, keeping that regional look at things is good.
Agreed.
Okay. Any other comments?
Let's see, this is Eric from Transport in Fort Collins. And I guess I may be confused about the timing or the flow of how this comes together. So please correct me if I'm off track. Our safety committee gathered up in like October this year to set performance goals for 2025. So I think we're already on a track where we are kind of committed to a regional approach. Now, we may be able to change that if we need to, but that is where I think transport is at, is that we've already kind of assumed we were doing a regional performance setting.
Becky, would you be able to jump in on that timing just a little bit for me?
So I think when we did this in February, so every December since we've had to do these targets, we've brought these to TAC and then gone through the process with our council. I think that, keeping it at a regional level, I think that you're on the right track, Eric, with that for transport at the regional level. Even if we were to support the state's target, I think that the transit agency staying at the regional level is where that needs to be, and not looking at the state targets. But I think regional is where we're focusing on and where we're going to be moving forward with. So I think yes, you're on the right track, and moving forward with a regional target is the correct thing.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, our plan right now is to generally in, I don't know, August to October, make sure that our safety committee gathers and sets those goals for the upcoming year. So if we need to change timing, we can, but right now that's how we're applying that. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks, Michaela. All right, and we'll move on to the NFRMPO's 10-year priority list.
Yeah, so I am going to talk very little for this piece and hand it over to Loveland. I think Loveland is first, yes, in the packet, and then to Greeley to talk about their projects. So the Loveland projects are new. This hasn't been discussed with TAC before, and this is just to see if we want to put them on the list for the 10-year discussion and the workshop at the end of January. Two, if they're new projects, where they would be placed, so tier 1, 2, or 3, depending on the mode. The Greeley project is the one that was discussed last month, and with more detail and how that connects to Wells County 17 project. So I will hand it over to Keith. Are you going to go first, and then to Hannah?
And the 287 in US 34 is currently on the list. It's a tier 2, so we're going to move it up. So I think is that one we're going to start with.
Yeah. So thank you, Becky. So yeah, we have 3 different proposed edits to the 10-year plan list of projects. So the first one we wanted to talk about, if you go to the next slide, is proposed change number 1, which is moving the US 34 and US 287 intersection safety improvement project to make it a tier 1 project. I have my project manager, Justin Piles, online, who wants to talk and provide a little bit more detail on this project. Hey, Justin, are you there?
was there just.
He was there again. I see him on there. He unmuted. Uh-oh.
With an AirPod issue.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. We hear you.
All right. Sorry, folks. And well, anyway, thank you, Keith and NFRMPO TAC for giving us the opportunity to talk about the project today. As Keith said, I've been supporting this project. We were awarded some grant funding early this year, which we were really excited about. Really kind of propel this project into the next phase and do some more evaluating, figuring out exactly how to accomplish some of the problems. And those problems are so. When we did a safety audit early this year, 2024 traffic study determined that the US 34 Cleveland intersection has more crashes than expected, and with the Lincoln side, there was more crashes and more injuries than you would typically expect with an intersection like this. A significant number of those crashes also involved bicycle and pedestrian impacts. Am I creating that getting a lot of feedback? Am I creating that? Let me try to mute. Just curious here.
That's probably us.
We'll mute the room.
Awesome. Yeah. Hey, I really appreciate that. Sorry. All right. So yeah, number of crashes involving bicycle and pedestrian users of the intersection. There, looking at the congestion of the intersection, this obviously 287 and 34 sees a number of motorists each day. Currently operating at several of our movements are operating at level service E. We anticipate by 2044 there will be significant level of service failures. Looking at some of the regional priorities, CDOT Region 4 prioritization study. In the 2023 study, this was ranked the number 11 intersection in the region. And then with the 2022 CDOT Region 4 bicycle and pedestrian study, this received a high systemic score and was quoted one of Loveland's crash hotspots. Also through our Connect Loveland, Loveland's master transportation plan, this intersection ranks really high for pedestrian improvements, tier 1 pedestrian improvements. There is no on-street bike lanes through this intersection, and our sidewalk corridors are around 5 to 6 foot throughout. So really a lot of opportunities for improvement. So when we kick over to the next slide, we detail out some of those project improvement opportunities. A big part of this, and I'll jump around a little bit, a big part of this is looking at the operational impacts and adding dual left turns for both eastbound and westbound US 34, and then increasing the queuing capacity, which kind of runs off the edge of the page here. But again, substantially increasing the amount of cars we can queue through those turning movements. To improve kind of pedestrian mobility and bicycle facilities through this intersection, we don't anticipate putting those users on street. I think we want to maintain them on the sidewalks and provide a shared use path, 10 to 12 feet of sidewalk, and offer better refuges at right turns and medians. There's also, we're going to be offering increased queuing capacity and better right turn bays for eastbound US 34 to right turn, and then northbound Lincoln right turn, as well as westbound US 34 onto northbound Lincoln. Two things we really want to do a better job evaluating through this project. One, I think there's really a lot of opportunity, and that is we own a city parcel here, the Good Times Burger. They're on that parcel is currently on a 5-year lease for the building, but the city owns the parcel. And so we wanted to continue to evaluate the opportunity to establish a transfer station. Currently, our transfer station kind of in this area is a little further south on 8th Street, a few blocks down, which just doesn't operate as effectively as we would like it to. And so we think there's a lot of opportunity to invest in and potentially consider what a kind of a central Loveland transit station could look like here, and how we can utilize some of the 287 right away to provide for those bus movements. And then one other component of this is just keeping in mind the North Front Range rail and how we'll connect our pedestrian mobility and bike mobility potentially along the BNSF rail line, which again off the left edge of the paper here, but the rail approaches right up to the top to the bridge over the BNSF, and so we could really look at tying this project in with a future trail connection. And so regarding the scoring for this project and trying to advance it from a tier 2 to a tier 1 project, just talking in a little more detail about safety and mobility. So one thing that's come about in the last several months, but an ongoing evaluation is taking US 287 from 6 lanes to 4 lanes through Loveland. So I know this year we were approved for a demonstration grant along Lincoln Avenue to make that lane drop from 3 lanes to 2 lanes and see how that'll impact the operations. Say Lincoln, very well could be Cleveland. Sorry, not super tied into that project. Keith would probably correct me quickly here, but so with that kind of additional right of way, we really see a lot of opportunities to improve mobility for transit users and other bike and ped users. From an asset management perspective, there are 3 retaining walls and a bridge, again located on the west limits of the project. Latest concepts in trying to accommodate dedicated right turn bays and the amount of queuing we'll need, we're going to have to replace those walls. And so also reaching out to some of our utility partners, they've really tried to avoid impacting this intersection. There's some really old water lines or sewer lines, I want to say 40 or 50 years old. So this project is going to give those folks an opportunity to coordinate with us and get those infrastructures replaced. Just from a strategic nature, obviously US 34 and 287 are major regional corridors, very significant. And this is just kind of a cross section of those, an intersection of those two corridors. And with as time goes, there's just going to be growing traffic volumes at this intersection. And as a result, again, going back to the CDOT studies and Loveland Transportation Master Plan, we just continue to see the issues escalate up those priority lists. And then kind of the last slide I have for you on this project is just a quick funding update. It's not the best graphic of this information, so I'll just highlight and say that the city has allocated funding for the full design of the project. And then again, early this year, we were awarded granted an SDBG grant for $3.168 million. Current project estimates have it around $12.8 million, and so we're still about $10 million short of being fully funded here. And then the right-of-way portion of this project is really unknown. We've just only recently started reaching out to some of our project stakeholders, the ones really impacted, and getting a gauge for how involved they want to be in this project and how we can accomplish some of their goals and work together, partner on these projects. For the most part, going pretty well there. So hopefully to have an updated right-of-way estimate here soon. And then I think back there on a previous slide, we just the slide for project improvements there at the bottom. There's letstalkloveland.org, US 34 and 287. Sorry, whoever's navigating, I think slide 3 in this slide there along the bottom. Letstalkloveland.org. We just published the website for this project. So if you have any interest in getting more information, we've published all of our historical studies. This intersection's been evaluated since 1997 with some in-depth traffic studies, and we have all those published online for you. Tons of great information, and if you just want to subscribe and get updates to this project, there's a link to that website there. So awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Now on to our second proposed change. So currently we have a project within the city of Loveland on the tier 1 list, and we're proposing to pull that off the tier 1 and move it to the active modes list. The project scope was to go from Rocky Mountain to Boyd Lake and from Denver to Boise and move it from a 4-lane facility to a 6-lane facility, which we've already done in the Denver to Boyd Lake section. And we're currently working on a project that should go out to construction in either late 2025 or early 2026 to widen the sections outlined in blue on the map there. So that should be complete, and those projects are fully funded as of now. The one issue, the one point that we haven't fully funded or haven't secured funding on this project is the sidewalk improvements. So that the sidewalk improvements are outlined in pink that we have not addressed yet. Based on a brief estimate, we estimate the cost to put those sidewalks in to be between $3 to $4 million. So this is designated as a regional active modes trail. So those are critical connection points that we need along US 34. So that's why I'm proposing to move it from the tier 1 down to the active modes list. Any questions on this one? Okay. Next one we have here is a new project. It's to add the US 287 bridge over the Big Thompson River. So as you all know, the 2013 floods caused a lot of damage. The bridge over the Big Thompson River experienced some damage, and we were able to put back kind of a Band-Aid fix to it, but we never fully addressed the problem after the 2013 floods. And still, the existing structure is severely undersized. It won't even hold the 10-year storm event. Over the course of time, we've had 3 major floods that resulted in lots of damage to Loveland and the community, and it also has emergency management repercussions as a result. 287 connects the whole south side of Loveland, Berthoud, other communities in the area to major emergency management needs, like the hospital. There's a Banner Hospital and MCR, which is both on the north side of this bridge. So by making this structure, potentially losing the structure in the next flooding event, it would separate the city, and it would separate some crucial infrastructure that we have. So if you go to the next slide here, the project objectives really is to remove as many properties from the floodplain, decrease the amount of damage in the next flood, protect critical infrastructure, maintain regional connectivity as a result of this project, protect businesses, keeping this regional transportation corridor open during the next major flood event would be critical, and improving the corridor's resilience in a future flood event. Next slide, please. So here's a look at the whole project. So it's kind of 2 projects in one. The first project is the bridge. We need to remove the existing bridge and put a new bridge in there, which is taller and has a greater span. And then the second project is a river corridor project. The river channel has been cut down and put into a very small prism, and really it needs more room to spread out in this area. So it would be going back through and regrading the entire Big Thompson River through this section from Railroad Avenue all the way down to St. Louis in order to get all those properties out of the floodplain and protect 287 as a result of that. If you go to the next slide, here's just a little cross section of the bridge that we're proposing. It's about 6 feet higher than the existing bridge, and over double the span of the existing bridge. We're going to put pedestrian facilities underneath the bridge with connection points up to 287, so you can get from any quadrant of the bridge without having to cross 287. Currently, the city of Loveland is going after a Protect grant for this project, and we're looking for all the regional support we can have on this project, and we feel like it's a regional project and a regional issue, and we would love to get support from the NPO, have it added to this list. That's all I have. Thank you.
So we want to discuss the 3 recommendations before we move on to Greeley. So moving 1 to tier 1, moving the 34 sidewalk project to the non-motorized list, and then adding new projects. So I don't know. Thoughts anyone has?
On the first project, what was the construction timeline for you guys? Is it like 2027 that you guys are looking at those improvements?
Yeah, I believe the funding we've received already is 2027 funding. So we would like to get it constructed as soon as possible.
And it's essentially a couplet, so two separate intersections, so we could phase it depending on years of construction funding we get for that into different projects. That we're designing it as one whole. The desire would be obviously to deliver it as one whole, but we certainly can phase it depending on where we get funding available to deliver that one.
Is there quite a bit of right of way that's needed for that footprint, or I pretty much have it, or a little bit of right of way, I suppose?
We do need right of way, yeah, that's right of way.
Justin can talk to this, but there's one property that we would have to acquire in order to get that right turn in there. The rest of it really is constructed within the right of way for the most part.
Yeah, we've this has been a long-standing project, and so it's been negotiated with some of the private stakeholders or discussed with some of the private stakeholders for quite a while. The one that we knew we'd experienced probably quite a bit of resistance or difficulty in working with. We tried to really manage those impacts, and then, like I said, we went out to some of the other impacted right-of-way parcels recently, and had pretty good discussions, healthy conversations. So we're really optimistic about that phase of the project.
Do your current estimates include right-of-way acquisition costs?
We do not have a clear estimate for those costs yet. We've taken some estimates, but I don't think those are super definitive yet. I think in part of the conversation for us is, do we want to consider this project and breaking it up into phases? It's two intersections. We've procured some of the funding now. We'll look to put some of the additional city funding towards this project. Kind of a Keith and Nicole conversation, but yeah, and potentially attacking this project through a phased approach.
And there are some elements like that right turn lane you talked about has a very significant impact on it, but it's also one of the greatest benefits of the project too. And so there's some pieces where we could wait and hold off and build that part later at some time that property owner, if it sells or changes hands, or so there are some options I think we have to keep it moving forward and still get lion's share of the benefit of the project. So.
Yeah, really like the design, timeless free rides.
Yeah. And really, I would say this is one of those examples of where a highway really divided a community. And this is one of those perfect examples of how do we start to make that feel like not such a barrier for the community and to bring them and make it feel like it's accessible and crossable and narrowing up 287 in that segment. It drops in the middle of downtown, so that narrowing already happens before you get to First Street. But doing that a little bit sooner might have some benefit to sort of making this, right-sizing this, I guess, to what the actual volumes are out there.
On the bridge project, you talked about it being sort of two separate projects with the bridge and then the floodplain sort of connection with the river. Does the bridge have to happen first in order to be able to connect the floodplain to
Yep. And I think that's the project we want on these lists. We're working with FEMA. We have a grant with FEMA and working on some other grant opportunities for that. But the bridge is really the one that it probably fits best on the list here. Yeah.
Both projects kind of go hand in hand. You kind of have to do one, you have to do both of them in order for it to work and get the benefits.
And it's such a big project that we aren't anticipating any one funding source will fund it. It'll be, a combination of grants from FEMA, protect all of the different sources.
Yeah, I would say with the first project, it speaks volumes being ranked number 11 on that CDOT Region 4 city, the whole region. So just the amount of traffic that goes through that intersection.
I remember it popped up on the congestion plan. I don't remember where it was one of the red ones on the congestion, which there weren't very many in the region, so it stood out to me. But it is something that I think in the area you just know it's a problem. I typically go another way. So.
And I think one thing you got to think of is freight. Regional freight going from one place to another, they cross through this intersection going anywhere between Loveland, Longmont, Berthoud. All of our communities are impacted by this intersection.
So is the consensus to move the 34 and 287 project to tier 1?
I'd be in support of that for sure. I think it's,
And again, I will just provide the information and then who knows what will happen on January 3rd. So for the second one, which is to move the sidewalks from Rocky Mountain Avenue to Boyd Lake, Denver Ave to Boise from tier 2, I believe? Tier 1, sorry, of roadway to the non-motorized list. Is there any heartburn about that?
That makes sense.
And then the last one is the new project. The 287 bridge over the Big Thompson to the tier 2 list. Is that a concern or okay? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, and then moving on to Creek.
Yeah, thanks everyone for giving us some time to chat about this a little bit more. I think it's been a big topic in Will County to chat about Will County Road 17, US 34. And we just wanted to give some background on our perspective about how the 131st Avenue project that we talked about last week really complements that project. So if you want to go to the next slide, we'll start off with our Will County Road 17 and US 34 conversation. So right now, if you look at the 10-year priority list, interim improvements are ranked as tier 1 with an interchange ranked as tier 2. And the 133rd project wasn't on the project list. So based off of the conversations that we've had here and really with some of our regional partners, it seems like, and based on the conversation we had last week, putting Will County Road 17 and US 34 as an interchange on the tier 1 list seems like the people that y'all were interested in. And really, when we look at kind of the rapid development that's happening in this area, we're expecting that the 3 really large developments that are currently under review could have up to, at those developments, 50,000 new vehicular trips from those developments, which are obviously that's significant. So really, we need to have a consensus from the communities on funding and interchange design. And with the city, really we have just gone through the 1601 approval process from CDOT for the merge project at 35th Avenue and US 34 and 47th Avenue and US 34. We just wanted to give kind of our perspective on if we want this interchange project to happen, we have to think about 1601. That was a 12 to 18 month process. That's like what we would expect as well for Will County Road 17. And at the end of the day, TDM strategies are going to be necessary to make this interchange happen. So with that being said, we want to kind of chat through what our strategy is to accomplish that. So if you go to the next slide, this is just an overview of 1601. So if you all want to look more into it yourself, there's a link to CDOT's document. And if anyone from CDOT's on the call, feel free to jump in with more perspective. But we would view this as a type 1 requirement, which would require approval from and review from the CDOT Transportation Commission. In our merge project, we deployed strategies like pedestrian underpasses, mobility hub, transit alignment, committing to having a transit-oriented development overlay and providing shared micromobility in that area to obtain both a good faith effort and a 3% reduction on our ramps for those projects. I would anticipate we would need similar strategies for the Will County Road 17 project. So that's kind of our thinking as we talk through the 131st project. So next slide, please. So this is really our strategy to obtain those TDM requirements for the 1601 process. So when we did an analysis, having connectivity through a flyover bridge for 131st would alleviate 25% of the 50K anticipated trips at Will County Road 17 and US 34 and at 257 So as you can see, I don't know if y'all can see on the screen, but we really strategically put this location between the two, intersections, interchanges, to have benefits to both. We also wanted to provide a safe multimodal connectivity that was really centralized, where we're anticipating this large amount of growth to be happening. I just kind of want to note how this plays into Greeley's overall transportation strategy. So as you all know, we are working on the US 34 transit to Loveland. We are also in the middle of our mobility development plan, where we are recommending to extend 10th Street via bus rapid transit from downtown to this project location in the next 10 years. So this would be a key turnaround point for that service and a connection to the US 34 service, so that if somebody coming into Loveland needs to get to downtown Greeley, there's that seamless transfer point. And as you can see, there's also 4th Street planned to have that connectivity locally. And like I said, we really view this as a necessary component for Bullock County Road 17 to move forward as an interchange due to the 1601 process. And the next slide just shows kind of an initial rendering of what that flyover at 131st could look like. There'd be a bus loading, center loading median with a pedestrian connectivity, bicycling connectivity, and typical vehicular traffic. Vehicular traffic cannot get, there's no direct access from US 34, it's just to go over. There's also, we do want to have a mobility hub in this area to connect that local transit to the regional transit. So next slide. So we really view this as one project for the purposes of really making sure we're looking at transportation holistically with multimodal improvements. We want to see those congestion benefits on Bullock County Road 17, but we also need to see TDM strategies for that 1601 process. We also view it being very strategic to have it between County Road 17 and 257 and connecting US 34 transit to this rapidly growing area. Again, leveraging those TDM benefits. So I have one more slide just kind of going over Greeley's overall mobility strategy. So you can see how, again, this is connecting bus rapid transit from downtown Greeley to this mobility hub, connecting East and West Greeley, as well as connecting to that regional US 34 transit. So that's what I have. I know we chatted about this last time, and we just really wanted to get the perspective of why we view these as a combined project that really we would, in order to see those benefits and to see the project move forward at Bullock County Road 17, we need to also move forward with 131st. So would love to chat more about it. Hear your feedback.
And where do these fit in prioritization now?
So the interim improvements, interim operational safety improvements for 17 to 34 is on tier 1, and then the interchange itself is the first project on tier 2. So you're recommending or requesting that we change the project that's on tier 1 to be the interchange and the mobility hub at 131st. So that is correct.
And we took
Expanding
a
that project.
similar approach for merge, from my understanding, on the 10-year project pipeline, because of really looking at it from that holistic, multimodal perspective and needing to get through the 1601 process. And I wasn't here really when that occurred, but that was just kind of historic perspective.
Two updates ago.
Where does that project sit on the priority list? The merge project.
It's still on there. So the way that we did it this last time was we prioritized it by corridor. So it's 34, and there's 3 projects in there, and 2 of them are the merge, and then the other one is the interim improvements. And then it's a I-25 and 14 interchange, and then there's another project that there's another one. I think it's an I-25 project. So that's how we did them the last time.
I guess I'll just say the 131st project, this last time you spoke was the first time I've heard about this. So for this being, I guess, in tier one, I would have some concerns because there's some known issues out there on the corridor that haven't yet made it to the top tier. And so for a brand new project, new concept, a great concept, wonderful, I think, great vision for the future of transportation. I worry that, is this thought through? Is this for sure going to be the plan, or is this something that's a brand new concept and idea? So pairing the two together, I understand the strategy with 1601. Are there ways that you could get some of the benefits of multimodal with the County Road 17 project to do an underpass with it, or bring some elements of that in and be able to do it sort of maybe not all as one project or over time? So those are just some thoughts I have about pairing those two. I wonder if regionally that makes sense as we look at all of our priorities and needs along all of the corridors, is taking these two very different projects, right, and pairing them together and making that a top priority, or the biggest needs along that corridor. So that would be the question.
And then for the 1601, do you have to, if you're pairing them together, do you have to build the 131st Mobility Hub before you can do the interchange? Or as a part of your application to do the interchange, can you say, and then, in 2 or 5 years, we will add this mobility hub? And that's just, I don't know the process, so it's just.
So you can make commitments, like for example, for our existing 1601 process we're going through for merge, we have a certain timeline we've committed to CDOT for things like a TOD overlay. So I think from really staff perspective, we would view getting 131st strategically first would be beneficial, just in terms of getting through and the interchange built may take more time than the other project, but that is just our perspective on kind of the timing of with development going on and all that. So yeah.
And then when you went through this, or when Greeley went through the 1601 process with 35th and 47th, that mobility hub and all that was kind of part of it, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Like one application?
Yes, it's looked at holistically. We essentially have to create a TDM memo going through what are we expecting transit to look like by opening day, what are we expecting, shared micromobility, bike and ped connections. We had to look at it all holistically, and we, try to use pretty conservative estimates, but we did talk about, the mobility hub extensively, and that was viewed favorably by CDOT, so.
How long was the process for you guys on that?
I came in the middle of it, but I believe it's taken at least 18 months, but I can get a more definitive exact answer for you all. I don't know, I think Victoria might be on the call, she may have a better idea.
So these projects are tied to adjacent developments. Where are those developments at with your approval process? Are they surely going in, or?
Yeah, so if you want to scroll back up, so one more. Oh, I guess this shows it. Sorry, go back down. So there's these 3 developments you can see. There's Uptown, Delantero, and then Cascadia. So Cascadia has not started their development review process, but it's a public-private partnership. Uptown, I believe, has already gotten their zoning, but they're working on their plat right now, and that's the same with Delantero.
Are they participating in any of these improvements?
Yes. From my understanding, we in part want to take off the interim improvements from the tier 1 list, because we want to do that through development as the interim improvements, just in terms of timing, because this intersection is failing and would support that level of development. But also it will take a good amount of time to get through the interchange process, so.
what's kind of the funding structure for the 131st improvements? Is that all kind of private funded or is it public as well? Or?
I believe it's a mix of both. And I think that they're also still determining exactly what that looks like, so.
So what does the timeline look like going through the 1601 process? When do you guys plan on supporting?
I think in part we want to understand, is we need to have those conversations with regional partners like Will County and Windsor for what that funding structure for the interchange would look like. We need to kind of figure that out first, and then we need to, begin that process after that.
Remind me, where's CDOT at with the interchange design in terms of their review and being on board with that?
From my understanding, and I could be incorrect about this, this is happening more on the public works leadership level, but I think we've shown the diverging diamond kind of proposal, and I think CDOT has liked that idea, but I haven't been directly involved in those conversations, so I don't want to give incorrect information.
So I remember original concept here was a CCI, and we had some concerns about the operation, long-term operations of that. And now if you ever pass with the DEI, reducing that footprint, we really like this particular option.
Yeah, that's our perspective as well, reducing the footprint while improving the operations.
I think in terms of need to, the Welch Road 17 intersection is, if you look at crashes, if you look at congestion, if you look at all, it meets all the boxes, right? As we start to look at what our priorities are, that intersection definitely is, I guess, the tying of the two together. I wonder if the 131st project has been thought through enough to really add it to this prioritization list at this time. I don't know. I think the Welch Road 17 intersection is certainly something that makes sense to keep on the list and keep it moving towards improvements.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page that Welch Road 17 is a high priority. We need to get interchange. It's just, can we get through that 1601 process, and are we, without having that connectivity through 131st, going to be really putting all that traffic on 257 and 117? I think that's where we're trying to make the case that we need all of this for it to be successful, and for, adding this level of daily trips from this development. How can we promote, not just car-based traffic? So creating additional options for the public and really connecting East and West Greeley and US 34 transit. So
yeah, systems wise, it makes a lot of sense as a build out.
Are there any questions for anyone online? All right, so what I'm hearing is changing the interim safety improvements for Wells County Road 17 and 34 to the interchange on Tier 1 is something that everyone is okay with. It's just that adding in the 131st project to that is where the heartburn is. Is there a place that the TAC would feel comfortable suggesting the 131st go if it's its own project?
I think separating them and maybe having it on a different tier, just as you vet it and work with developers and get agreements in place. I think that going through that vetting process, it just feels very brand new, and going through the vetting process maybe on a separate tier would make sense to me. But I don't know if that's possible for you all, if separating it makes it not feasible, but.
I mean, it's hard to say because that wasn't the approach we took with MERGE. We kept it all together and we're seeing success there. Whereas, this is gonna be a process we're gonna start going down and you're like, oh, this really needs to all be together for us to get through this process. And that's a concern we have from our experience with MERGE. But I understand where you guys are coming from.
So would TAC feel comfortable if I make the change to the tier 1 project for 17 and 34 and add the 131st to tier 2 and then in the workshop talk through if that's something that want to combine, keep separate, or not at all?
Is the 131st project, is that in your vision plans and that's in?
It's in both really on the go and we're in the process of doing our mobility development plan. It should be adopted by council in early quarter 1.
Yeah.
And that's where we have mobility hub added. And we did have a mobility hub initially at 257, but just with US 34 transit, we think not getting off, having this more streamlined mobility hub makes a lot more sense operationally for that service. So we basically just moved that 257 over to this location to kind of have it be centralized between the two interchanges.
And I guess it feels a lot like a 257 benefit, right? If you're thinking about all of our needs in the full region and all of the priorities we have, saying this is the second most important thing that we have in the whole region, where does 257 rank in all of the regional priorities? It's not. And so that's where I really am struggling, is 257 is not on there. This isn't 34, although it intersects with 34. It is not 34, but provides connectivity and gets people off of 34, right? If you're gonna take the class or use this. I am struggling with putting this on the tier 2, but that's me. I'll let you all speak up.
Yeah, I think you're bringing up some valid points, Nicole. There's a lot of working parts here, a lot of visioning going on here. I think long term, I think it would be beneficial to put it on the 10-year list and then kind of let it play its course. Think about the long-term vision of Highway 34, and if the goal is to make it more multimodal friendly, I guess I would maybe suggest or recommend we just add it, see where it goes. Others can agree.
Do we have an estimated cost as to how much funding you're looking for these projects?
Yeah. Bouchon, our chief engineer, has estimated the 131st at 50 million. And I believe that the DDI was in a similar range, but I don't have the number right directly in front of me. So I believe in that what I provided in the last tech packet had a breakdown of everything. TDM strategies will be critical to getting a new interchange approved. Sorry, having audio issues.
And I guess I'm wondering if we sort of take smaller bites of the apple too, because getting 2 interchanges approved rather than just one, it will be a lot of work to get one of those approved. So to pair them together, that'll be the region's work for the next 20 years. That could be your 20-year list, right, to get those 2 interchanges. And so I wonder if there's some ways with the Federal 17 one to incorporate TDM into that interchange. And although this, if we had a limited budget and this were Sim City, where these are great concepts and this is a great plan and vision, and you've got the developers at the table to help make it happen, right? So that's an exciting thing. But.
Yeah, and like we had those conversations recently with Windsor, connecting those trails that they have along County Road 17, which is 7, and connecting that down to Johnstown. I think that would be huge to be able to do it at that DVI and have those TDM strategies.
Great.
Yeah, the the direction and recommendations we've gotten from, our engineering team is that although we would see safety improvements at the DDI with all modes, that it would be, that we would want to try to direct that more local traffic, the multimodal traffic to this 131st for safety purposes. But just having it be completely separated from US 34. And, but yeah, that's just the feedback I've gotten from our engineering team. Yeah. But yes, I agree that having, providing that connectivity through Will County Road 17, and continuing that south makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, some of the conversations I've had with CDOT lately too is that Tier 1 project that was on there for that location, that the interim improvements were really just, operational improvements, really low level. I don't think it was really like the continuous flow intersection or anything like that. It was just kind of a.
It's just capacity, auxiliary turning and things that it needs out there, right?
So, yeah, so really we're just kind of, because all this is coming forward a lot faster than we initially thought, like a few years ago, it's really just taking that project off and then moving this from tier 2 to tier 1.
Yeah, and
As
we're,
a DDA.
we're in agreement with that.
But yeah, we're fully in support of the interchange there, of course, and that's what we think the improvement needs to be. And it is a major priority in the area.
Can we take this 131st to our big meeting and just let that discussion play out and maybe see what, if they would recommend having it, listing it as tier 1.
Yeah, is there, sorry. At the Super Coalition meeting in January, is there going to be a presentation on this particular project? So they would also be able to hear about it then before.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a January.
Yeah, I think that, just making sure the elected officials understand what the project really is. And I think that extra meeting there will help.
Yeah. We also did make this one pager for, I have a stack of them over there if you all want to bring them to, your planning commission or planning council members. Or if you just want a copy yourself, also in front of it. But yeah, we're definitely trying to get the word out about our concern about the need of this project. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Greeley will be presenting January 8th, I want to say, at the US 34 Coalition. And if you don't have an invite, you want to let me know. Well, it's all virtual anywhere.
The day before council then, because we moved the council meeting
Yes.
back.
Is it possible to just know what other, I know we have a list and stuff like that, just to be able to see how this new project, I like the interchange, that's great, tier 1 totally, but the new project, how that actually ranks with the rest of the regional priorities, if we're just throwing it in there, especially because it has such a potential for development funding, and if it, then what are we losing? What is getting moved
So
actively?
the scoring and the ranking happens it's gonna happen at the workshop.
Okay.
But I will.
Just like a data safety, how much improvement are we getting?
Right, it's a dirt road right now with zero traffic. So
There's
nothing
nothing
there
now.
This would all be new volumes,
New problems.
projected volume. So that's where I struggle is we have existing problems, not that those are the ones that, had we thought ahead, right, we wouldn't have some problems we have today. So this is great thinking, great planning, and what we should be doing. I'm just wondering if, as we're prioritizing our needs, if there are other greater needs that fix some existing problems.
Yeah, are existing problems greater than new problems that we haven't created yet?
Yeah, it's all development driven, and
So they're creating the problem.
yeah, it's kind of one of those chicken and egg things.
It's kind of groups in itself.
But it is a bit of forward planning, all this development that is really at some point going to happen outside of Greeley, and making sure we have, the transit connection there and some of these other things that we typically are way late to the party on and don't get implemented early. So that I get about it, but it's hard
And when you're sequencing
We have so
it in
many
terms of
issues.
prioritization, yeah.
It's like, can you still do it? But.
All right. I'll make those updates to the list, and then I will be sending the list out as part of the council packet, so probably handouts, not the actual packet, so. But thank you.
Thanks for the discussion.
And then we have our little project that we're looking to keep on the list. Do you need any presentation?
No, this was just the additional one, additional information, and then, so, no, the ones that were presented last month, besides the grid ones were already added, that was the issues.
But at planning council, you won't be
No, not until the 30th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll be out of town.
Yeah.
All right, so the NOPA Bike and Ped Collaborative.
Oh, no.
Oh, wait. Oh, I have it.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yes, how could I forget that? Sorry. Sorry, Mark. MOF.
No worries. Thank you. So today I want to just discuss the project recommendations that came out of the scoring committee meeting that we had last week. So in terms of what we're going to talk about today, just going to do a quick overview, reminder of the program, and then focus on the project recommendations, and then talk about next steps. So just a reminder, MOF goals, I know you've seen it a number of times, but it's never something to see too often. I won't read them off, but as you can see, there are 6 goals. One of them was added during the 2019 call. Next slide. In terms of the funding, again, a reminder, funding available, looking at about 4.5 million, broken down by category, you have 3.4 available for category A and about 1.1 for category B. And then as far as project sponsors, it could be maximum awarded about 1,700 for category A, about 567 for category B, and with a total of 2,270,000 plus for total funds for both categories for sponsor. And then just a reminder, just as far as the funding, obviously 24-25 is not a lot of funding available, unfortunately. But as you can see, there's an increase in funding from 26 to 28. And again, showing the funding breakdown as far as by category. So in terms of the schedule, obviously we're later in the process at this point. We're having going over the recommended projects at this meeting. Moving forward, the applicants that I'm talking about soon, you'll be doing the presentations at the council meeting. And then beyond that, taking action in January, TAC will be on projects, and then council action at the February meeting. So now I'm going to talk about the project recommendations. Again, I just want to quickly thank everyone for their time through going through the process of doing the scoring for these projects. I know it was very time consuming, so we do appreciate you going through the process with us. So in terms of the recommended projects for category A, as you can see, it's ranked 1 through 8, and the score is based on the group as a whole, as far as how the score breakdown. So as you can see, the US 34 Transit Satellite Connectivity Project was ranked number 1. They requested $1.388 million for that project, and the scoring committee is recommending they be fully funded for that project. The second scored project was the Foothills Transit Station and Roundabout project. They did request $539,547, but with the math, they're going to get partial funding for that project at $317,669. And then finally, the third project is the Taft Hill Road Corridor project, $1.7 million, and again, that project's going to be fully funded. And just as a reminder, as far as the US 34 Transit Satellite Connectivity project is a bike and ped focused project. The Foothills Transit Station and Roundabout is considered kind of a various project. It has different components to it, the TDM component as well as the electrification component. And then Taft Hill Road Corridor project, again, has a bike and ped kind of focus to it. Next slide, please. So as far as category B, again, not a lot of funding available, unfortunately, but the way the ranking panned out, the number one scored project was Front Range Passenger Rail Fort Collins and Loveland Station project. They requested that $567,000 max amount, and the scoring committee recommended they receive that full amount. And then the second ranked project was the Wallow County On-Demand Transit Program. Again, they're requesting that $567,661 amount, and they too will be receiving the full request. And essentially that covers the funding available for the category B projects. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to provide a map kind of showing you, giving you an overview of how the projects, where the projects are in the region. You can see there the roundabout project, Fort Collins, up in the northwest corner there. Then you have the Taft Hill Road Corridor project, that is Larimer County project. Then you have the US 34 Transit Satellite Connectivity project, again in Loveland. The Front Range Passenger Rail Fort Collins and Loveland Station project, essentially it's dependent upon where the stations are determined, right? So essentially it could be anywhere within those two municipalities. And then Wallow County On-Demand Transit Program, as you can see, covers a wide area. Includes an incorporated portion of Wallow County and the MPO boundary, including the towns of Johnstown, Milliken, LaSalle, Tinmouth, Windsor, and Eden. So a very broad scope project there. Next slide, please. So in terms of next steps, like I said, the project sponsors will be presenting to council at the January meeting. You'll be making a recommendation at the January meeting on the projects, and then the council will take action at the February meeting. So with that, that's the presentation I have for you today. Happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Thanks for all of your work on that.
Thank you for your work too.
We're moving on to the NOCO Bike and Ped Collaborative. We have a written report for that one. And then regional transit agencies, I don't know if we have any verbal reports. All right, hearing none, we'll move on to mobility updates from Aaron.
Aaron, are you on? Aaron Hall, sorry.
Going once?
Yes. Yes, I'm on.
Okay, did you want to provide a mobility update?
There's not that much at the moment. I'm the new mobility planner. I just started a few weeks ago, so slowly getting into the role. Corey has recently left for anyone who doesn't know that yet, but at the moment just getting involved with everything.
Well, welcome to the region.
Thank you.
And then for the December Planning Council meeting summary, we've got a written report. Inactives, a written report. NFRMPO air quality updates, written report.
And I just want to note that those updates are the ones that are provided in the council packet that Dina Boytak, our consultant, provides. I'm going to start adding those to the TAC packet so that you have them as well. She won't be presenting at this meeting, just will have those in there as well. So because there's a lot of good information in there. So. Thank you.
On the round table.
Lots of things going on in the county, but one of those big things we're doing is we're looking at our CIP list in kind of a different way. So we've been kind of called to the table a little bit as far as our fund balance in public works, and so we're really needing to look at spending more of those dollars rather than kind of sit around and not really accomplish.
You have too much money.
Too much money. So So we are bringing forward some pretty major projects in the county, and we're going to be moving forward really quickly on these and having some outside consultant teams in our offices kind of working on design and then eventually construction of this project. So one of those being the County Road 54 corridor. So we're really advancing that project forward. We went to our board this week and discussed this item with them, and so we're looking at building basically one lane in each direction on County Road 54 from 257 to the County Line Road, County Road 13, with a center median. But it's going to have a lot of improvements, large shoulders. It's going to be a real nice improvement from what's out there. So we'll be looking at design here, starting really mid-year next year and kind of getting it done as quickly as we can. Another project we're looking at is County Road 66 between US 85 and County Road 47. So on that particular road, which is just basically north of the airport, going to be looking at doing some major improvements over there as well. Some concrete roadway. And then eventually, hopefully, we can get signal there at US 85 to connect that in. So some other projects that are getting advanced in our CIP, but I just can't review that. But it's a good problem to have, I guess. So we're pretty excited about it. Let's see. We've talked about we've hired a consultant for our Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. We've just been moving forward on that. Really just kind of getting our start on that. Really going to be going to the public starting next February or March and looking for a lot of public feedback on that. So, yeah, good things going on.
If there are any project conditions you'd like to add to the fiscal year 2026 to 2029 TIP, please get those in to me by Friday.
I don't think yes.
Just want to give a quick little update on the active transportation plan. So first, thank you all who have met with me for the RITC visioning process. As a result of those meetings, there have been a few recommended major changes, which will affect the schedule for the plan. So I'm anticipating we'll be done by the end of calendar year 25, but I need to go back and do a little bit of rescheduling based off of some discussions. There have been discussions of extending some RITCs and even the possibility of including a new corridor. So once we get all that figured out, I'll be bringing that all to you to get some feedback and make sure that it's all good, same with Planning Council. And then once that process is done, I'll have more of a sense of how much more needs to get done towards adoption. So a lot of great discussion with you all, and there will likely be some changes to the RITC corridor, so keep an eye out. And that's all I have.
Nothing major. I think big one that we have for Loveland is we have the 287 sidewalk project, which we're finishing up the right-of-way process, and we should be going out to construction this summer.
For Windsor, we're still in the process of updating or doing our Vision Zero roadway safety plan. We've been working with our technical committee on our roadway safety audits the past few weeks. Brought Eric Brackey out of hiding to help with that for a little bit. That's been fun. And then we, believe it or not, found a civil engineer to fill our empty spot. He starts January 6th. That's exciting. And we'll be advertising for a construction manager position next year. Keep growing.
We opened bids last week on the cycling, pedestrian, and bicycle overpass that would connect Mail Creek Trail to the Power Trail, which is a regionally significant or regional transportation corridor. And it looks like construction prices are starting to level out and solidify. So we're hopeful for that for the Power Trail that we're underpass that we're going to likely advertise in January. So.
We kicked off construction for the County Road 5 and Tractor signal for those who like that road and stuff like that. So hopefully there'll be a signal going in this spring. And then we also kicked off a concept design to continue Timon Parkway to the north. We have some fun soil conditions for property owners, so we'll be figuring out how to finish out our bypass. Always good to start in the middle.
For the city of Greeley, like I alluded earlier, we're wrapping up our mobility development plan, which is our transit development plan, looking at additional nodes. That'll be going to council in early Q1. We're expecting some route realignments over the next 10 years. So if you're interested, let me know. And we're really also focusing on adding both. We've mobility hubs as neighborhood hubs, community hubs, and regional hubs. So yeah. And then for our Safe Streets for All and Vision Zero planning, we are expecting that to go to council in January. And we're also currently looking at, we got an implementation grant, which we are going to, we're currently looking at our bids for those design services, which would be selecting someone by mid-January for that. So exciting to start actually making some of the changes that are recommended in our Vision Zero action plan.
The only thing I have is I will be sending out probably tomorrow the 2025 TAC meeting. I try not to confuse people by sending it on the same day or before the last meeting of the year. So we will be in this facility for all of 2025 unless we get preempted because of an election or something like that. So at that point, we would, I would ask for volunteers to host, or we could do a fully virtual meeting. So.
Anyone online have any updates? All right, I'll wrap it up for Loveland. We our council voted to fund HIP Streets, which is a project right off of 287 in downtown Loveland. So it'll be a revitalization project in our downtown area. We're really excited about that one, and that'll start in February of next year. TAC and US 34 is in winter shutdowns. If you've been avoiding that, you can drive through it for a few months and then we'll close it down again in the spring. So, but it's making good progress. And we are going to be hiring a transportation planner, so we'll be posting that position here in the next few weeks. Yeah. Oh, and then I was going to mention, I've been looking for some time on the agenda to talk a little bit about what we're doing, each of us is doing for Safe Streets for All. So I don't know if we have time next time we can talk about that, but you don't have to put a ton of effort into whatever you share, but it'd be cool to go around and just sort of hear some of what everyone's working on. I know we talked about that for future agenda items, so we'll keep looking for an agenda that has some space for that. Thank you all.